And welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. When last we left this mission, the Rescue 3C ship had settled into orbit at about 108 days mission elapsed time and had begun the project of mapping, just a second, had begun the project of mapping the planet for Kethane deposits. And it started out in about a 80-degree inclination orbit, which is mostly polar. And after doing a lot of mapping at 80 degrees inclination, I did a plane change and changed it to a 50-degree inclination to concentrate on this area here. I have found a grand total of 17 Kethane deposits on the planet, ranging in size from 6,000 liters to well over 95,000 liters. Now comes the time to decide on landing. And for that, what I've done is I go to the map view here, and you see here is Jebediah's current position. Now I put those coordinates into the landing autopilot, and it translates it to this. And so you'll notice here that this is not using degrees, minutes, and seconds. It's using decimal degrees. So I switched the landing autopilot to decimal degrees, and this is the coordinates in decimal degrees of where Jebediah is. Now, holding a mouse over here, you get the current decimal degrees of where your mouse is, and I've pretty much determined that this deposit right here is the closest one to where Jebediah is located. So that is the landing target. Now, following this, I'm mousing over where the deposit is, north and south, east and west, and I'm pretty much figuring that the middle here, right about 16 latitude by 146 longitude, is where we want to come down. So I'm going to, let's see, 16 by 146. So I'm going to put those coordinates in here. And of course, we do not have a re-entering orbit just yet, but that's all right. We have time. As a matter of fact, what I think I need to do is the planet is orbiting, rotating on its axis that way, I believe. And so what I need to do is continue to orbit until the planet's rotation takes the landing site, or at least this thing, to somewhere close to being under the orbit, so that we can land without making further plane changes and using more fuel for that. Although, in terms of fuel, this ship has got in its main tank 1,144 liters of fuel and 400 liters each in two side tanks for something in the neighborhood of just under 2,000 liters of fuel. So this thing's got lots of fuel for landing. So I'm going to just continue to orbit around, accelerate to 50x time. I can turn that off for now. And pretty much wait until planetary rotation takes our target ship under the orbit path in such a way that we can then hope to actually land on our target of 16 by 146. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be back when we're in position to land. All right, I have orbited around until Jebediah's position is almost under the orbit, and the place where we're going to land, I believe, is in the neighborhood of about here. In the process, I also raised the orbit up to something over 500 kilometers, and the reason for that is to provide enough time to actually get lined up with where we're going. And the first thing to do is to warp time ahead a little bit more until we're about, I think, about here. And then we're going to kill the horizontal velocity completely and go for a straight down descent. Alright, so now we'll just turn retrograde and kill our horizontal velocity and turn this into a straight in descent. In fact, I can go ahead and turn that orbital information off. I'm not going to need that, I don't think. Just need our surface information, the landing autopilot for what it's going to tell us about what our predicted landing site is compared to the target coordinates. All right, now let us do the first part of this and kill this orbit. The thing about doing it from a higher orbit is a higher orbit has a slower orbital speed, and therefore there's less velocity to kill. Okay, now it's assuming we're doing an aerobraking because we're not actually going to hit the surface yet. But it will change from that. Now it's showing the distance from the landing site that we would land if we stopped thrusting right now. It is, of course, updating that as the orbit continues to shrink. And speaking of things here, let's bring up the Kethane detector. Have it detecting. Because the main thing, regardless of what coordinates we land at, we want to land on a Kethane deposit. Preferably as close to Jebediah as possible, but take what we can get. Jebediah is a hardy soul. He could jog over half the surface of Mars if he had to. Or Duna, excuse me. Mars, what's that? Where is that? I don't know. This is Duna. Let's hold that attitude right there. Turn this into a nice straight line. Head it down to our target. Predicted landing site is getting closer to the target coordinates. And I probably will use the landing autopilot a little bit more to fine-tune the actual place we touch down at. In fact, I will. Okay, land at target. It will do a course correction and put us aimed directly at our target. And as we get down lower, closer to the surface, the Kethane detection will kick in and start telling us that we are over a Kethane deposit. Okay, it looks to me like it's got us pretty much on target. So we'll disengage that. Okay, let's see. The Translatron is a neat little autopilot system. Another thing that I honestly believe that genuine spacecraft interplanetary ships would have is a autopilot function that would maintain vertical. And let's see, we are descending at 46 meters per second. I'm going to have it keep our descent speed at 100. At no more than 100 meters per second for the moment. Actually, I'll turn that off for right now and accelerate time a little bit and get closer. Altitude 450-ish kilometers. Down to 400. And I think that will be a good point to start killing velocity. And it's doing that. Keeping us, well, it was keeping us close to our target. Let's disengage that. Have this do a course correction real quick, because I'm really terrible at figuring out exactly what direction to burn to do that right now. And it may not be quite 100% vanilla doing it that way, but frankly, I'll take any soft landing in a target zone that I can get. We're not hearing any detections right now, but I honestly believe it's because we're not within range. 375 kilometers is probably out of range. Okay. We're once again on target. We'll set it to keep our vertical speed at 200 meters per second and do that. Perhaps it would be a good idea if we were actually in a retrograde position before we tried to do that. Okay, looking good. Velocity coming down. Landing point coming closer to the intended place. Get our velocity back down to 200 meters a second, something manageable. And I'm zoomed in about as far as I can be right now. Okay, we're at the target descent velocity. Turn that off for the moment. Have a look here. Deploy the landing gear. And let's go for a little faster descent time-wise. Hopefully we start getting a detection sound soon. Get down to 200 kilometers and get some more braking in. Okay, let's go ahead and do the braking now. One thing that concerns me is that I'm still not seeing any detections below us, and that's the whole point, is to land on one of those spots. It could be far enough off the target that we'll have to adjust it. Very glad that these Nerva engines don't use tons and tons of fuel per second. Okay, let's adjust this to 150 and get our velocity down to 150 meters a second. And when it is down to that, see about a course correction to get back on our landing target. And I forgot to have it keep killing our horizontal speed. Alright, let's do a course correction here. While we have time and altitude to do it with. Still not hearing any pings from the detection unit. Oh, this is bothersome. Our latitude is increasing towards the 16 that we need. So perhaps that's what we need. There we go. Kethane detection. All right. Kill horizontal speed and keep vertical. We're over Kethane. That's all we need. 192 kilometers and descending. Keeping our descent rate low, killing our horizontal velocity, because now that we're over Kethane, we don't need to be drifting horizontally in any direction. I kind of wish this would zoom in a little bit more sometimes, like right now. If I could use RCS to help slow that horizontal velocity down a little bit quicker. Get that horizontal velocity down to 0 and just kind of keep it there. And then we can just use comparatively low thrust. Ooh. Okay, RCS is not helping. Turn it off. We've got lots of RCS fuel with that large tank, but it's not doing us any good. Turn that sound off for now. It's not doing us any good, so we'll just let this thing do it. Horizontal speed is coming down to nothing. We're maintaining 150 meters per second descent. We're coming in south and east of our target, but I don't care. We're over Kethane. That's the nice thing about having a detection unit on your landing ship, is you can make sure that you're landing over what you want to land over. A little bit of physics time warp here to speed this up a bit. And video time warp to speed it up now because physics is a little bit janky. Alright, our horizontal speed seems to be acceptable. We are pretty much vertical. We still are over Kethane. And that's all that matters. Look at our map view. Yes, we're quite a ways from where Jebediah is. He's going to have a long walk ahead of him, but I'm certain he's up to it. It means going home. Frankly, this is about the only ride he's going to have coming by here for probably a couple of Kerbal years. Turn that off and just coast a little bit. Okay, let's get some velocity killed. Make sure. Yes, we're still over the Kethane. That's all that matters. We're a little bit southeast of our original target, but we're still over that deposit. Geographically speaking, it's a pretty good size area. And oh crap, that's a bad time for the phone to ring. Okay, I'm back. And here we go. Killing our velocity back down to 150 descent. In fact, at this point, let's take it down to 50. Execute. We're descending awfully fast and we're getting very close to the surface. And parachutes are now active. They will deploy at about 8,000 meters. That's an annoying sound, but it's music to my ears right now. It means this mission is going to succeed. And I'm only using the, I don't know if I said it or not, but I'm only using the predicted landing site part of the landing autopilot because it's sort of kind of useful with normal regular rockets, but these Nervas don't have enough thrust for the kind of maneuvers that it wants to do. And so we'll just use it to indicate where we're landing. And at this point, that sound is a better indicator, in fact, so let's just go ahead and turn that off. The fact that these numbers keep updating and the sound keeps dinging means that we're on target. Our horizontal velocity is acceptable. Vertical speed is dropping. Something manageable. Turn that off for a little bit. Go ahead and descend some more. Keeping a careful eye on the true altitude, the actual altitude of the surface. In fact, I think the next slowdown should be to 30 meters a second descent. And we better start that now. Horizontal velocity is almost killed completely. Now I'm going to do a bunch of video acceleration because this maneuver is going to take a while. I may even cut some. Starting to see a little bit of surface definition. I am hopeful that the area we land on is relatively flat. "16 kilometers-ish. Set our vertical velocity hold down to 8 meters per second very soon, so that we're descending at less than 10 meters a second, which is a safe landing speed. Okay, getting down here. More physics time warp and video time warp. Okay, we should be seeing the parachute soon. Let's go back to vertical. Definitely seeing surface definition now. The red paper towel. Martian surface by Bounty. Approaching 4 kilometers altitude. Parachutes could open any time now. We're going for 8 meters per second. I'm going to go ahead and turn that down to 4 for a softer landing. Right now we're free to burn up all the fuel as long as it doesn't run out before we stop. 1,500 meters. One kilometer. We're now going at less than 10 meters a second, descending at 4 meters per second now. Parachute should open at about 500 meters, if I'm right. We are very close to touchdown. Coming up on 600 meters altitude. Descend a little bit more. Let the parachutes open. Re-engage descent control. Use bursts of it so that we can descend at a decent pace but not get going too fast. 250 meters. We have a shadow. Less than 100 meters altitude now. 60, 50, 40. There's our close-up shadow. 20, 10. Touchdown. And the autopilot keeping us vertical helped us not tip over. One last confirmation. We are sitting on a Kethane deposit. So, turn off the detection. And let us do what we came here to do. Deploy extractors. We have capacity to hold 5,800 liters of Kethane, and we are now extracting Kethane from the surface of Duna. And we'll pick the rest of this up in the next video, because this mining operation is going to take a while, as will Jebediah's walk. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. I'm out of here.